Hello viewers, Marianne from Revealing Light Tarot. It's Sunday morning here in Australia. As you can see, the light is streaming through behind me. It's quite a sunny day, but it's got a little bit of a nip in the air. I want to do a Spirit Files today with the assistance of the angelic realm, particularly Archangel Metatron. I want to look at neutrality today, and it's a lesson that I have been studying, let's just put it like that, studying now, well, perhaps for most of my life, but more intently in the last little while. I think because of the moon formerly being in Libra, we have the scales of justice, and of course justice is very important to all of us, and when we see an injustice we get triggered by it. But let's move away from a little bit away from that, maybe a little bit toward the center here. I want to look at neutrality, and neutrality is born, it's different from justice. Neutrality is born from balance. It's being in the middle, in the space there, where you're not contrasting, you're not making judgments about anything. You're being totally and utterly neutral, and it's a quiet space. It's the space where peace is. It's the space where John Lennon's imagination was born, the song Imagine. It is the space where I guess love is felt and love is received and love is given, because there is no contrast, there is no judgment, there is no them versus us. It's completely and utterly neutral. And I can say when you achieve that space, there is a peace that is almost euphoric. Now, I'm sure that's where the hippies were going in the 60s with their, trying to get to that place of neutrality. And they were forced to get to that place of neutrality through fighting for freedom, fighting for liberty, fighting for rights, coming out of the 1950s, 40s, 50s, world wars, draconian regimes. You saw McCarthyism, you saw all sorts of extremism, and some of those patterns are working at the moment, and it's bringing us back into balance. Now, that's a good thing, because when we're in balance, it's less likely that injustice will occur. But for you personally, for me personally, being torn by the injustices that we see, perhaps becoming emotional and being triggered by those things that we see. It's one thing to be self-righteous, it's another to be out of balance. And so neutrality, for those that are feeling pushed and pulled, neutrality is a wonderful, peaceful state to be in. Let me just take a sip of my tea. I've left the infuser still in it. Because neutrality is a place of peace. It's a place of well-being. It's a place where you can listen. It's a place where you don't have to act. It's a place where you're not being triggered by the emotions. And I think it's actually when people speak about nirvana, I do feel that neutrality is somewhere there. So how do we achieve neutrality? How do we find that? I'm just getting the image of I call forth the angelic realms today. When we see an angel figure, or the angel figure that is depicted in graphics and media today, you have wings, which is light, and you generally have some kind of shape moving out to become all light. I see neutrality as that space there in the middle, and surrounded by the light. And when I see that, it allows the light to get in, and allows the light to be spread. In terms of our relationships with others, when we're in that neutral zone, well, I call it a zone because zone implies a perimeter. And I don't feel there's any perimeters with neutrality. I feel that it's all encompassing. When we're in that neutral space, let's call it that neutral space where we can thrive, where we find equilibrium, our relationships with others are just so they're just enhanced because we're not triggering other people because they may or may not be neutral. If they're neutral, they won't be triggered. So neutrality for me anyway is a good thing to aim for. Now that's different to righteous fighting, fighting the good fight. That's different to resisting, I guess, corruption, resisting those that would take other people's freedom away. There's always been a time and a need to fight oppression. But even when you're doing that, there is a chance also to move into that neutral zone, and that neutral zone asks nothing and it takes nothing, and therefore it is actually good for your well-being to be in that neutral zone. So I want to ask Spirit today, how do we get into that neutral zone, that neutrality that promotes our well-being? How do we get into neutrality? Because when we're in that neutral space, we're less likely to be pushed and pulled by our patterns from the past. We're less likely to be pushed and pulled by habitual behaviour. We're less likely to crave and need things that aren't good for us. Because we're in that state, as I said, I'm sure that the monks in Tibet, that's where they go. They go to that neutral space. It is possible for us to access that. Absolutely it is. And it is around suspending judgments, suspending contrasts, around contrasts, always the good and the bad, the evil and the good. The person that does more, the person that does less. All of those contrasts propel us to make judgments. So suspending judgments, suspending contrasting, and just almost like a meditative state, finding that quiet, neutral space where we suspend almost the intellect, certainly suspend the emotions. All right, Spirit, what is the value of neutrality? What is the value? What's the value of neutrality? I'm getting a constant image of a mother and a child, and I had that when I opened up for this reading. It is the nurturing. The child is at the mother's chest. It is abundance. The closest thing in the tarot is the Empress card. It is a place where you generate abundance. So that space, I'm just getting a flood of light now in my third eye. That place is where the light is and the darkness isn't. All right, how do we achieve? Now, what are the benefits of neutrality? Spirit, what are the benefits of neutrality? The benefits of neutrality. Okay, balance and alignment. I'm seeing the image of a triangle. So the first card that I'm pulling is the High Priestess. It is the number 2. And I am reminded that we are connected energetically, all of us, in this universal consciousness, this collective consciousness. This High Priestess sees all, and she's not making any judgments because she has gone within. She is in touch with her higher self, and so she doesn't have to make any judgments. I'll bring the laptop down. The High Priestess, number 2. The 9 of Cups, it is a place, as I said, where abundance reigns, where we let the light in. The 9 of Cups is I guess always, well, it can be associated with miracles. So it is the place where we actually see miracles, where we are free to see the bounty, to see the harvest, and where we are less likely to see the. This is very important. I'm just getting a real hit here. When we're in neutrality, we're less likely to see the faults in others, and that's really important. And so it allows us to see the beauty in those around us. It allows us to see the connection and the beauty. It allows us to see the beauty in those around us. Okay, it's a lovely thought there. The Seven of Cups. The Seven of Cups. I'm using my Good Tarot by Colette Baron Reid, and I'm using it because it is a neutral deck. The Seven of Cups is about making choices. And in this card, unlike other tarot cards, it's not about a bad choice or a good choice. When we're in the benefits of neutrality, finding that space within, that neutral space within, we are able to see the right choices. Well, I don't even want to say the right choices. We're not drawn to the choices that would drag us down. Let's just put it that way. And it's interesting that I'm pulling two emotional cards. Number 9, we're moving toward the end of a cycle. Number 7, it's the lessons that we need to learn. And the High Priestess, this is our connection with each other. So neutrality, what are the benefits of neutrality? It's an enhancement of our relationships. It's an enhancement that if you think about who we relate to in any one day, that can be those that we work with. It can be our family, it can be our neighbours, it can be our community, it can be the people down the street. It is a place where we're not asking for anything, nor are we taking anything either. Okay, the Sun. That's beautiful. Happiness. What it does, what are the benefits of neutrality? The Sun. Illumination, happiness and joy, a 1 and a 9. This is a renaissance, and this is a renaissance for the individual. It's not our normal state. Well, certainly for those who haven't attained enlightenment, like those Tibetan monks, perhaps, which includes me. For those that haven't obtained total enlightenment, it's not our natural state. And it's a state that we can achieve. It's not unachievable, though. Okay, the Two of Fire. The Two of Wands has been coming up a lot lately in my political tarot readings, but I'm drawn to the Two of Wands. There are just some cards that jump out at me and make me focus. It's sitting straight under the Miracle card. So if we're in what are the benefits of neutrality? I do feel that neutrality actually yields I guess inspiration in time. So I think neutrality, what this spread is saying to me, is that neutrality actually positively impacts on the future. It is a guiding light for the future. It paves the way. It brings in the light. Because when we're in that judgmental space, when we're in that emotionally triggered judgments, are a combination of both the thoughts and the emotions. Which comes first? Which comes first? When we're in that neutral space, we're actually bringing the light in, and it's less likely that we'll make those judgments in time. So the Messenger of Fire. So underneath the choices, having to make the choices, I guess there is an inspirational aspect to this Messenger of Fire, and she's operating within the light. And she's discerning, and I did talk about discernment in one of my previous readings. And neutrality, I guess it's to me is different from discernment, because discernment is actually stepping back, gathering the information, and then making your decision. Neutrality is a place where you don't need to make a judgment, don't need to make a decision about anyone. It is a place that we come from. It is an observational place. There's no need for action, and so if there's no need for action. It's interesting then to be able to hear more strongly the signals, not only from the universe and from spirit, but also from our physical bodies, because our physical bodies pay a high price for the judgments and the emotions that we run through it. Unfortunately, that is a fact of life, and physical bodies wear out with age and wear and tear. And so when we're in that neutral space, it actually has a physical benefit. It actually has a physical benefit, because apart from the body doing it what it normally does, and obviously following certain patterns that we've either consciously or unconsciously programmed into it, it allows the body to not to have to act in such a frenzied way. If we just think of what anger does to us physically. The page of earth. Okay, so this is the pentacle underneath the sun, the page of pentacles. And in this particular deck, it looks a bit like Peter Pan. And of course, what was Peter Pan? Peter Pan was someone who didn't necessarily judge. He had that childlike innocence, and so I'm taken back to our childhoods, where the neutrality was there before we learnt to move out of that natural space. And so the Page of Pentacles is about finding that childlike, non-judgmental space again. So again, bringing us back to that childhood energy. Of course, it's a fresh energy. It's a energy that has a lot of agility, a lot of momentum. And it's around the trust and the faith in the world as well. So here I move to trust. Okay, and the underneath the Two of Fire, as we move forward in time, we've got the Hermit card. Neutrality also allows for introspection. The benefits of neutrality allows for introspection, and also self introspection as well. So when we're in that neutral space, we can actually see, we can learn a lot. The information that comes to us allows us to take those keys and open many doorways. Number 9, that's a beautiful number. It's the card of moving toward concluding a cycle. It's the card of this. I always associate it with Renaissance, with a thinking ahead to new beginnings. Create, what are we going to create in the future? The Hermit card comes forward there, but the Hermit card is not just based on, I guess, a hard knock, a hard lesson. This Hermit here is based on information that is coming and flowing gently and abundantly to you when you're in that neutral space. And the three of Wands underneath the Messenger of Fire. This is a card of expansion. This is a card of moving forward, and it's also a card of moving into your third eye and your crown chakras. It is a card of connecting with the divine. So when we're in that neutral space, we are automatically raising our vibration. We are automatically raising our vibration. So what's at the basis of the pack? The Two of Cups, of course it would be, because connecting with others is where we started, isn't it? The number 2. Connections, understanding the interconnectivity between us, understanding that all living things are connected. Okay, and the Messenger of Cups, I do associate with this innocence, and approaching things with a newness that actually attracts other people to you. It's an energy that people can feel because it's non-judgmental, so they will move forward. They'll move forward to you. And fortune's wheel, of course, we'd move to the to the number 10, which is the conclusion from the 9 to the 10. The conclusion of something and moving forward. So I feel that when we're in that neutral space, I feel it's very much a natural space, and I feel that it allows an abundance to come to us. So I'm going to leave it there. I have, as I said, been working on my neutrality. It's not well, when I say it's not a hard state to attain, but unless you're aware of it, unless you strive for it, then you may not even know it's there. Yet it's a state that we can move into because of our higher selves, because we are we're in a physical body, but we're also spiritual beings. So neutrality, a place of non-contrast, a place of non-judgment, a place of harmony, a place of peace, a place of, I'm just getting the peace symbol now, the circle and the triangle within the circle. So I'll leave you with whatever images that might conjure up. Certainly neutrality will raise your vibration if you want to move into it. Just a state of suspending judgment, not allowing the mind to contrast, to pick sides, to choose sides. It's a state of absolute and utter balance. And I do believe that when you're in that state, I do believe that your well-being is enhanced. So good luck, my friends, in at least experiencing neutrality or aiming for neutrality when you're the most triggered. Will have a wonderful, tremendous well-being benefit. Okay, thank you for tuning in.